Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you very much for joining me for a brand new Handle Security webinar. My name is Alina Marie, Webinar Program Manager at Handle Security, and I will be your host for this event. Before getting down to business, just quickly sharing a thing or two about myself. I'm passionate about cars, about traveling and photography, but kind of married with technology, if you will, as over the past 15 years, I've been working for different tech giants such as HP, Oracle, and Optimize. Once again, thank you very much for joining me today. A real pleasure to have you all here. Now, let's take a look at the agenda for today. So, of course, I'll briefly introduce handles for the persons that are new to our webinar or haven't heard about us yet. And then we'll look at a brief history of EDR, how and why it evolved into EPDR. Of course, what's the difference between protection and prevention in this term, and how EPDR actually evolved to be the new golden standard in cybersecurity. Also, we'll look at EPDR essentials, meaning the principles that should accompany deploying such a solution, as well as what to look out for in an EPDR solution. Of course, then we'll look at how can we help. I'll give you a quick tour of our own EPDR solution. And towards the end, we'll have the Q&A session, and I have a little surprise in store for you at the very end. So stay with me up until that time. If you have questions, feel free to type them into your GoToWebinar control panel, and I'll obviously take care of those questions as we get to that section. The questions that won't be answered during this session will receive an answer by email from me in the following days. So with that being said, in order to understand who we are, here is a little bit of an introduction about us. So we're European provider, a leading European provider of cloud-based cybersecurity. We're based in Copenhagen in Denmark. And as you can see from our logo, we take our Northern heritage very seriously. The name originates from the Northern mythology as well. So Heimdall was the ultimate guardian that protected the rainbow bridge named Bifrost. That was the connection between Earth and the home of the gods, the city Asgard. And you may remember Heimdall, if you've seen the Thor movies by Marvel. He was a superhero wearing that gold-plated armor, guarding that rainbow bridge in the movie. And basically, the whole foundation of what we do as a cybersecurity company is down the same lines. We are basically protecting your computers, making sure that any malware that's trying to get in from the internet into your computers will be stopped by the Handles card. And the Handle product has been in the market since 2014. We've been actually invented by some of the winners of what's called the DEF CON Capture the Flag. The DEF CON Capture the Flag, it's seen like the World Championship of Hacking. And there, our guys competed against the likes of the FBI, the NSA, freelancers, many other big security companies. And we won that championship in 2011 and 2012. And when our guys came back home, they said, you know what, if we can win this championship, we can for sure fight off some hackers. So they kind of laid the foundation of what is now Heimdall Security. Even today, we have some of the market-leading products in proactive threat prevention. Threat intelligence is appraised by the FBI. It's endorsed by the NC3, which is the Danish police cybercrime unit. And we're even working together with Europol and the US Department of Justice in what it's called the No More Ransom Initiative. And we're also honored to be recommended by the Royal Bank of Scotland as the preferred cybersecurity solution for their business customers. So just a quick introduction about who we are and what we do. Now let's move and talk on the next slide and move and talk about what is EDR. And to understand it, we need to look at where it originated. And the first time the term emerged was in 2013, when Dr. Anton Chuvakin from Gartner's team of IT security experts defined it as a collection of tools primarily focused on detecting and investigating suspicious activities on hosts and endpoints. And the acronym that he used at the time was actually ETDR, Endpoint Threat Detection and Response, but that quickly evolved in EDR for short. And up until that time, the only comparable security term was that of EPP, that stands for Endpoint Protection Platform. Obviously, that EPPs were severely limited in scope and capacity, as you will see in the next slide, compared to the next generation of EDR solution. So typically, an EPP was comprised of an antivirus, a firewall, and a data encryption tool. Obviously, it was more fancier than just having an AV, but still limited in effectiveness, as the solution only worked against known threats. And as you can see, the EDR solution was more advanced than the classic EPP. It added behavioral scanning, backdoor and sandboxing analysis to the traditional code-based detection for the antivirus, and it also added threat telemetry tools as additional security layers. And really in no time since the concept was launched, considering that the threat actors also combined their attack techniques to make the EDR necessary, EDR suits become the best security offering of all security giants. And of course, each of the EDR suits that were available on the market were slightly different depending on the provider, but still they had one thing in common, that was that they tried to cover the basic functionalities of detecting and responding to threats at the endpoint level. So then you may wonder, what is EPDR? Well, EPDR is the new generation of EDR basically. And it appeared because obviously the threats evolved, and really it's now needed in order for the world to stay safe from the latest advanced and persistent threats. And as the threatscape evolved, prevention needed to take the first seat in the array of EDR functionalities. We were naturally the first company to take the lead in putting prevention in an enhanced EPDR technology. And of course, we made prevention our main cybersecurity approach with the flagship product that we have, the innovative AI-powered two-way traffic filtering engine named Dark Layer Guard. And I'll talk a little bit more about it in a couple of minutes. And of course, in the security setup of any organization, shouldn't be focused on just detecting the threats and responding to them, because that's no longer enough. When a new type of threat is discovered and it's launched, and we've seen that hackers can get very creative. I had a couple of examples during my past webinars. Just a simple EDR solution won't do the trick anymore. And even though we use the term EPDR for the first time, we noticed that lately it's more and more used by the cybersecurity community. And of course, that's absolutely great news to see it become the new standard. However, there are also cases that we noticed analysts and cybersecurity experts are using EPDR as an acronym for Endpoint Protection Detection and Response. And the reason I'm mentioning this is just to make sure that if you ever see that in a cybersecurity offering, you keep in mind that it's not as advanced as EPDR with prevention in its array of solution. Protection is reactive. It's a more basic component, more like an AV engine, if you will. And of course, we know that's long outdated. Whereas prevention is a proactive and much more advanced approach to cybersecurity. It's really the only way to make sure that your organization will make the next headlines of the wrong kind, actually. And as I mentioned during my last webinar last year alone, we've seen a huge spike in the already continuously increasing threat in the advanced adversary capabilities of the threat actors. And as the IT attacks are becoming increasingly personalized and professionalized, with ransomware as a service being just one example of that trend. And of course, there's so much to gain from attacking organizations and corporate targets. And of course, the cyber criminal industry, if we can call it that, they are putting huge investments into innovation as well. So of course, after the attackers innovate, so must the defenders. And some succeed, others really fall behind, depending on how much of a priority they make of research and development. And we have it as our core as a company. It's really what's propelling us forward. And of course, EPDR is the latest example of this type of innovation. So in this case, the EDR component got supercharged with the essential prevention component in order to help us stay ahead of the malware operators. And really, this is a field where there can be no guarantees, but EPDR is the best thing to deploy so that hackers won't take you by surprise. And that's really a fantastic addition. Our threat prevention engine, DocLayer last year stopped 13 million attacks. And the traffic pattern recognition AI and machine learning component, which is named Vector and Detection, spotted 24,633 infections that were undetectable by any AV. And last year alone, our automated patch management solution patched 14.2 million applications for 7,000 customers. That's around 41 per endpoint, and that could translate to 41 potential vulnerabilities that we closed for those customers. So a really, really important component to have, and that's prevention. So let's move into the EPDR essential. Basically, there are many legit, but also many would-be EPDR solutions out there. And here's what we think you should look out for when you're surveying for one, if you're ever going to be on the market for that. So of course, the first is going to be cross-interactivity. Just make sure that the EPDR solution, each of the modules of the solution won't be acting as singular silos, if you will. They're going to be able to communicate and feed intelligence to another. Then, as I mentioned before, it should have true prevention, not just protection. Of course, make sure that the EPDR solution that you're looking to deploy secures both external threats as well as insider threats. Last year in April, FBI has issued a warning over cloud-based business email compromise scams that have cost US companies alone more than $2 billion. So that's a very important component to have. Proactive automated patching. Really, this is one of the least well-handled areas in the security of organizations worldwide. And I've been talking about the patching paradox in my webinar related to patch management. And the only true solution for solving this problem is really to have an automated patch management solution, as the patch management process can be properly handled even if you allocate more human effort and more resources to it. And although having human expertise on board of any initiative and any process is essential and will never get outdated, a well-trained AI will be able to pick up on clues that really pass human attention. And a truly innovative EPDR solution is self-improving and self-actualizing, chiefly through its integrated UI. It's able to learn and spread that information into the network. And of course, I should mention that the top-notch EPDR solution should also contain everything that I said, but also revolutionize the workplace by cutting down on the time waste, both for system administrators and for users, and thus, boosting productivity and, of course, the ROI. So now that we've seen what features should accompany or should be present in a PDR solution, I also need to mention that EPDR should be accompanied by a set of principles. It should be regarded more like a philosophy, if you will. So in my view, here are some of those principles. First of all, should be cybersecurity awareness and education. And we've seen the features that the solution can have, but it's imperative that everyone in the organization properly understands what are the rules and why they need to follow those rules and do things in a particular way that they're being told. Of course, the cybersecurity awareness training should be in place at least twice per year, so at the minimum, because it's really one thing to be told, don't click on suspicious links or do this or that, but it's another thing to have someone really explain and help you spot and identify, what a suspicious link could look like, or why it would be a danger for the organization if they would click on such a link, and so on and so forth. Then we should also have the zero trust principle anonymously applied. And again, I've been talking about it in a webinar that was related to patch management. And if you want to have a look at that, that's available on our website. But to summarize it, it's really an approach in which users are not given admin rights at all, and that's including C-level users. And that process should be handled through a rights management application. And this way, you would block the hackers from infiltrating the organization and compromising, accounts through different hacking techniques such as whaling or spear phishing. And cyber resilience is the last principle I want to bring out, as in the current threatscape, with the new and more complex threats emerging every day, of course, cybersecurity is now becoming a matter of business continuity. And besides just recalibrating your cybersecurity, you should also recalibrate your mindset. Of course, ramp up your defenses to the max, but also be prepared to have a backup plan for the worst. So on top of having this top-notch EPDR solution, you should also make frequent backups of all your data, because in case you lose access to it and you may never get it back, you will be able to pick up where you left. And of course, after improving and reconfiguring your security. And also have strict policies for onboarding and offboarding employees, just to make sure that ex-employees really don't retain any kind of access into your organization after they leave the company, but also just make sure that the people that you are onboarding have the exact roles and rights applied in the organization. And now, before moving into kind of giving you a high-level overview of our solution, I have prepared a poll for you, and I hope you'll be able to see it. And I'm just curious to know what kind of cybersecurity setup are you using right now in your organization. So I'm gonna launch the poll. I'll give you 30 seconds to a minute to vote, and we'll pick it up from there. All right. All right, but we still have 30 seconds left for people to vote. All right, so now I'm gonna close the poll. I'm gonna share the results with you. Hope you guys can see it. So I see that it's a tie between EPP and EDR. I'm a little bit surprised by that, since EPP is a solution that, in our opinion, is long outdated and may not provide the right effectiveness. EDR is a good solution to have, but I think you kind of understood the importance of having the prevention on top of the other capabilities of the solution. So let me give you a quick tour of our own EPDR solution, and maybe you will see why it's important to have a PDR solution in your organization. So how can we help? Of course, with our own EPDR solution. And from the get-go, we decided to take a modular approach to cybersecurity. And even though we're offering really a complete security stack in a way that you can really pick and choose the modules that you need when you need them to either scale up or scale down, I'll just focus on the modules that build our EPDR solution today. So as I mentioned, we're offering a solution that proactively prevents attacks. It will detect any intrusion inside your network, and it will, or your systems, and it will allow you to respond to any attack that's ongoing. And we're even offering this with a full XDR option, meaning that we can monitor your network and alert you whenever you need to take action on it. So in that way, you can really free up a lot of time and resources, and concentrate into more strategic objectives within your IT department. So I'll start with the threat prevention module. That's our unique, you say, proactive threat prevention solution. And we're offering here both network and endpoint-based DNS, HTTP, and HTTPS filtering. And that's, of course, especially important now as working from home, or even working from anywhere actually is becoming the new norm. And this is part of the world's most advanced DNS filtering product. And it's utilizing our AI inside a neural network. And it allows us to predict if a DNS lookup is malicious or benign within seconds, even though it could be brand new to us. And we're tracking a 96% success rate in detecting if a benign domain has been built to be used maliciously in the future. So we're able to protect your DNS lookups that might not be used maliciously yet, but they are being set up to be used in future attacks. So really the most advanced security, DNS security in the market. And on top of that, we're combining this with what we're calling vector detection. I've mentioned it a little bit earlier as well. That's our AI machine learning algorithm that's running on top of all the DNS queries. And just to make sure that you'll be alerted when there's an indication of attack or compromise in your network or your endpoint, so that you know where to spend your time in order to deal with it and stop any potential infection. So to summarize, inside the Clear Guard and vector detection, you get both HIPS and HIDS, that's host intrusion prevention system and host intrusion detection system, meaning that we will protect you against any intrusions on all your hosts. And in case there's an attack that's ongoing, we'll tell you exactly on what machines is taking place. And also at network level, you'll be able to log and see exactly what's happening. And that can be very useful if you want to do forensic work in the aftermath of an attack, but God forbid. And to also tie this to the latest NSA recommendation respect to DNS over HTTPS, or DOH in short, we've been hard at work, and our product is not only fully compatible with this technology, but it also has extremely low latency. Now, if we're moving on to our vulnerability management, here we're offering the most scalable, hyper-automated patch management solution in the market. And this can work completely standalone without having human interaction. And just like the threat prevention module, this is part of the anti-malware solution of the year as well. And it's a proactive cybersecurity solution that's taking care of your third-party applications and windows, making sure that they are up to date, and we can do that in just 4 hours after a patch has been released. And it covers both feature and security patches, and it has capabilities of delaying, of versioning, or even rolling back the patches if needed. And of course, before we deploy and deliver the patches, we test them for malware, for bloatware, and when we deliver them in encrypted packages through encrypted traffic through our cloud delivery network. And it also offers full CVSS scores, the possibility to uninstall applications on any endpoint through our unified dashboard. For Microsoft updates, it can suppress or postpone or even delay them. And you can even schedule or force reboots on endpoints just to make sure that patches that require reboot are actually installed. There's also a built-in software center that allows your users to install approved software from our cloud without the risk of getting malware or bloatware from the internet, and most importantly, without the risk of without the need of them to have local admin rights. And that's especially important. They don't have to bother your IT departments with I need this application installed and the other application installed. There you would kind of build your own one-stop shop for applications that they can use, and they'll be able to install them whenever they need to without having the machine, the endpoints exposed by giving them local admin rights. There's also a full asset management view that allows your admins to see a full inventory of what's been installed inside the network or on any specific endpoint in just 30 seconds after the Heimdall agent has been deployed. And that's really important in order for you to make sure that you're compliant, and of course that your users are only use approved software. And on top of the patch and asset management. We're also offering a deployment solution. And what that means is that through our Infinity management add-on, and by using our cloud delivery network, you can push your own updates or software, whether that's MSI or .exe files, or even you can have command lines or scripting around those. And you can push these to any users anywhere in the world, of course, using encrypted packages and encrypted traffic. Not sure if you're aware, but 85% of all malware is using unpatched software as an entry point into your network. So that's why Gartner listed patch management as the #2 risk mitigation project in cybersecurity. Now, beyond the proactive side with threat prevention and vulnerability management, we also offer, of course, the reactive side, so the DNDR, the detection and the response. And for that, we look at our next-gen antivirus that uses the most advanced detection layers with both cloud security and behavior monitoring system and live process monitoring. Really, it's built to block viruses, advanced persistent threats, brute force attacks, even on the firewall. It can block ransomware. It can even locate, control, and lock or block lost mobile phones and laptops through our integrated mobile device management solution. And it works both on Android and iOS. Of course, all of that can be controlled through the unified dashboard as well. And if you choose to add the ransomware encryption protection on top of the AV, it can work with our AV or any other AV on the market. And what this tool will do is that it will detect processes that try to encrypt files on your machine. And whenever that's detected, it's going to kill and stop that ransomware outbreak, that encryption outbreaks. It works signatureless, and as I said, it works along any antivirus. But what's really making these products outstanding is really the capability to combine the modules. And utilizing our AI-driven neural network, we are able to share intelligence between the different modules. So as an example, we can take information from our threat prevention, from dark layer guard, vector detection, patch management, and we can feed that intelligence into the next-gen antivirus, making it smarter, making it detect, threats that were undetectable up until we gathered that intelligence from the threat prevention. And then if we detected there's a problem or an attack or a compromise or something that's wrong within an endpoint on the network, then if you have the access control module, that's going to get that intelligence. And if a user has elevated rights on a machine, it will be automatically de-escalated to basically stop the infection. And that intelligence is going to be delivered to the entire network. Basically, everywhere you'll encounter the same situation, the same process is going to apply. So, in short, by utilizing our EPDR solution, you're actually taking care of the top 3 risk mitigation projects that Gartner highlighted, and you're really deploying a solution that won the anti-malware and anti-advanced persistent threat solution of the year as well. Now, before getting to the Q&A session, I have one final question for you through another poll. I hope you guys be able to see that as well. And I'm curious to know if you think cybersecurity should move beyond EDR now that you kind of know a little bit more about what is a PDR and what it does. So I'm going to launch the poll. And again, I'll leave you 30 seconds to a minute to answer it. Hope you guys can see it. All right, so there are still around 10 seconds left. for the poll. I see a lot of you voted, and that's awesome. All right, so I'm gonna close the poll and share the results with you guys. Hope you can see it. So a lot of you, even though you may be on EPP or EDR, believe that you should move, the cybersecurity solutions should move to and past EDR to the EPDR with prevention on top of it. Some of you need a trial to test it, and we can arrange for that. That's no problem. And some of you believe that EDR is sufficient, and that's perfectly fine. So let's move to the Q&A session. I'm just curious to know and see what questions we have here. Okay. So these are some very technical questions I see here, but one's asking me, so what do you think is the most important module to get first if you're looking to implement the EPDR solution? I would go with what Gartner says. And of course, that's threat prevention with DNS filtering, especially now at endpoint level and at network level as well. But as I mentioned, I think EPDR in itself should be a solution that is not just a static collection of tools. But if it would be to start from somewhere, I'd go with the DNS filtering at endpoint level, first of all. Another question is, will the ransomware tool decrypt encrypted devices? No, for the time being, the ransomware tool will not decrypt a device that's already encrypted, but as I mentioned, it will monitor your machines, and if there's an attempt to encrypt files on your machine, then it will kill that process, making sure that your machine won't be fully encrypted. Another one. So I can see one that's pretty much technical. If we can integrate with third-party threat intelligence feeds and other defense stack solutions, just FireEye network, sandboxing, or network detection and response. So to be 100% honest, I don't know, but what I'll do, I'll take these technical questions to our IT department, to our development department actually, and I'll get back with a more detailed answer for you on these questions. All right. So that being said, let's move to the giveaway, to the surprise that I have in store for you. And everyone that attended our webinar would be able to get their hands on a 30 days enterprise free trial of our entire EPDR suite if they want to, as well as a free vulnerability assessment. And one of our cybersecurity consultants are going to be in touch with you for that. But also be on the lookout for an email from me where you'll get your free Heimdall Threat Prevention home license key for 1 year and 3 devices. So as a short recap, today we learned the history of EDR, how it evolved into EPDR, what's the difference between the different terms, why it became the golden standard, and EPDR essentials, so what to look out for and how to deploy it. So this concludes the webinar for today. I'm super happy to see many of you attended. I thank you very much for your questions. Please take a minute to fill in the post-webinar survey. Of course, this will help me deliver even better content and materials to you in the future. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, I wish you all, of course, good health and stay safe both offline and online. Thank you very much and have a good day. Bye-bye.